I'm Manndi and I'm from Schult Incorporated. This is a workshop on divorce by design. What is the purpose of divorce by design? Firstly, it's to emotionally and legally prepare couples for the journey of divorce. It is to empower couples with knowledge of the legal process and the different options that's available in divorce. It is to reduce cost of the divorce by dealing with legal aspects and collecting of information and doing calculations before attorneys get involved. It's to empower couples to deal with emotional pitfalls during the journey of divorce to prevent the escalation of legal fees. Now, what I want you to do for a moment is just look at the purposes of divorce by design again. And see what stands out for you. What is talking to you? Make a note. Please email me or WhatsApp me about what stands out for you in the journey. So now I want to deal with the 5 divorce hotspots. And how can they trigger the battles? My belief and my experience through all the years that I've been in this field is that the divorce is 80% emotions and 20% law. I want to say upfront to you that the journey of divorce can bring meaning to your life. It can help you to discover your life purpose if you haven't done that yet. And if you have discovered your life purpose, how can you live that during this very difficult path that is awaiting you? For those who haven't and has no clue about what I'm talking about, I just want to break it down for you. When the news of a divorce is broken to you, especially when you didn't expect it, the chances is very good that you would go into shock. That is an automatic defense mechanism by our makeup. It's normal. In that, the chances, depending on your personality, you would go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. So how does it look like? I've seen it a lot. When you are in fight mode, if you are an A-type personality and conflict or fighting is your first response, you will probably want to run to an attorney and take the other one out, as I've heard people say. Then your attorneys will fight your fight for you. Please don't do that. The other one that I see is flight mode. That is for those people who hate conflict. They rather step away and step away from anything but to have a fight, especially if your spouse is a fighter. And normally I've seen it a lot, is that you have the two together. You've got your fighter and you've got your fleer, the one that runs away from conflict. Don't let that get you. Because what you will do by stepping away from what you can or what you are entitled to in the divorce, you will just set your children up to take care of you in your old age. Is that the responsibility you want to give them? Or do you and your spouse want to sort it out so that you have a sustainable agreement where both of you can be in an okay position so that your children don't take care of you in your old age? Then I've seen freeze mode. This is literally where you can see the body is there, but there's nobody home. Whatever I say, it's like in this ear, out that ear. They cannot remember. It's like the brain literally comes to a standstill. Memory is gone. I call this the 3 Fs. If you see an attorney in any of these, you will regret it. And it may even lead to post-divorce litigation. The next one is denial. What is denial? The words I hear people say, "Ah, he will get over it. Ah, she will get over it. She's threatened so many times already to leave. She'll come back." And it's normally the wives that leaves. But let me tell you, this may be the real deal. And if you don't engage, that person who wants the divorce will be forced to go and see an attorney to get you into action. And then you have no control about the process that you will go. The next one is anger. And my philosophy is anger is the symptom of a deep fear. The underlying emotion is fear. What are you scared of? Just listen. What has happened in your relationship? What has your spouse threatened you with? Have you threatened your spouse that you will leave them on the road? That they will leave with just the clothes on their back? That you will put them out in the street? Have you threatened your spouse that they'll never see the children again? That you'll take the children away from them? Because those are the two trigger points. That is the manipulating tool to get people to do what you want. And then that again then creates anger. And if you are in anger in this process, it can lead to one of two ways. You can use the anger to move you forward, or you can use the anger to create huge destruction. I always say, anger is like an atom. You can make a bomb of it, or you can make electricity. Your choice. The next hotspot is those things that happens in the relationship that probably creates the separation. One of the big ones that creates this is an affair. And what I find is that men are much more resentful and humiliated if the wife has had an affair. But I also see that women can be extremely humiliated by an affair. So how does this play out? If you had an affair, the chances is that guilt will drive you, and the guilt will get you to consent to things that you won't normally do if you have dealt with your guilt. Resentment is that thing where you just, within earshot of the children, say, your mother this, your father that. Your father is not taking care of us. Your mother had an affair. Or the discussion with friends. You know, she did XYZ. You know, he did XYZ. That is the type of things that messes the children up. And what I want to say at this point is that these things is not linear. It doesn't necessarily go in this order. One day you may feel anger. The next day you may feel depression. The next thing is you may want to go back. That's the bargaining stage. I call it the going back stage because the pain of all these other things is so bad that the pain you experienced in the relationship is much more acceptable. I many a time use the bargaining time or the bargaining stage positively for one of two things. It's either where people want to reconcile, or it's time to settle the divorce. What I want to say to you, if you and your spouse are talking about reconciliation, it will not work if the two of you don't address the issues that caused the separation in the beginning. You have to address it. You have to address it not between yourselves, because you couldn't have done it so far. What will change now? You do need somebody, either a mediator to address the issues, or a coach, or a therapist. I have a very specific 6-week workshop dealing with this aspect, and I call it Rebuild Your Marriage. If you just go back for the sake of going back, I can promise you we will have this conversation again. So is this time to settle? Why is it time to settle? Because you are in a bargaining stage. These emotions of anger, fear, fight, flight, all these things, it's being put away a little bit. So it creates a window for discussion for a fair settlement. All right, so let's say we can't settle. Where you want to be before you see your attorneys is at the point of acceptance. You want to move away from this person into that person. When you are in acceptance, you know that it's happening. Now, how are we going to deal with it? By this stage, you will also feel much calmer. You may even start finding meaning for your life. You may start seeing the light at the other side of the tunnel. We say, actually, this hasn't worked. Maybe there is a second take on life for me. Maybe there is somebody that will really appreciate me. And this process, without help, without the Divorce by Design workshops and the Divorce by Design retreats and the ongoing coaching, can take you up to 2 years. With work, you may find your meaning much quicker. One thing I haven't really spoken about now, which is important, is the point of depression. Why is it important for me to highlight that? Men and women deal with this depression in different ways. I've seen that this is the time where people can go into rebound relationships. I can see where people in this time, especially the guys, start drinking. That drinking or even using of drugs can get you to lose your children for a while until you get your act together. Women, I've seen on many occasions, this is the time when there is underlying depression where they try to commit suicide. I've seen it. I've experienced it. Thank goodness we noticed it before and I could get them help before they did something silly. People, what I want to say to you is these days marriages are not, or relationships even, people don't get married anymore. They're not always forever. We have become a generation and we've become people that want things easy. Marriage and relationship is not easy. If you don't work your relationship, you will end in this process that I'm talking to you about. Because of that, we have got various workshops to help people. We've got parenting workshops. We've got rebuild your marriage workshops. We've got rebuild your life after marriage. We've got power of purpose. What is your life purpose? What is the meaning of your marriage? Let's not talk about what's the meaning of divorce. What's the meaning of your marriage? If you don't have a vision in your marriage will not last. Because you won't have something bigger than you and your spouse that will hold you together. If you don't have a purpose and meaning in your relationship, it's doomed. What is the meaning of you as parents? What role modeling do you want to be for your children? Everything in our lives is a purpose. And that's why Power of Purpose is such an absolutely powerful workshop. We've got Power of Self-Esteem. How does your thinking about yourself influence your relationships? You can tell me, I'm very confident. I agree. You may be very confident, but what's your driving force behind your confidence? I'm shy. Yes, but what's the driving force behind your shyness? I'm an introvert. Perfect. How do you work your introvertness in your quiet space to give you meaning in life? Self-esteem is not about having confidence. It is about having that recognition of your makeup. Who are you when nobody else is watching? So enough of that. Let's move on to the next part. We've spoken about meaning of your relationship. So here again, a divorce is 80% emotions and 20% law. And there are 3 ways to get divorced. The meaning of litigation is when you use the courts to get divorced. That means you and your spouse get your own attorneys and you fight your battles through the attorneys. Many people calls it acrimonious divorces. Litigation is the way to go in certain cases. What are some of those? It's when there's domestic violence, when there is unmedicated mental health issues, like borderline personality disorders, unmedicated bipolar, addiction, alcoholism, drug addiction, sex addiction, things that a person is unreasonable and you cannot talk to them during negotiations. This is where the court will need to make some orders to put finality to the matter. The next one is mediation. And the third one is collaboration. Now, in the next parts of this workshop, I will break this down. Now, you will say to me, I don't want to go the litigation or acrimonious route. Now, let me invite you to go through that part in any way, because it may happen that you will need that at a stage. We hope not, but it is important that you know. So, how can we assist you through the hotspot phase? As I said, we have Divorce by Design courses and retreats. We have a Rebuild Your Marriage workshop in case you and your spouse want to reconcile. In this workshop, what we do is we are looking at the filters that you and your spouse has put up that started creating some behaviors. So you've got now your blinkers on. My spouse is this, my spouse is that, and because of this, this is the only way that they deal with. No matter how much your spouse change, this is what you see. You won't adapt, or you won't see that there is change happening. We further use the brain profiles. Are you right brain, he's left brain, or is he right brain and you left brain? How can you turn that which can be very negative and irritating into strengths? And how can you bring those strengths into your relationship? The next part that we deal with is forgiveness. We built up resentment. It's just how it is. It's those little things that continuously not change, and then it starts building resentment, and resentment is a big reason for separation. So once we get into forgiveness, we can start seeing our partners with different eyes. We can start getting into compassion. And when we are getting into compassion and empathy, we can start looking at communication. Now, the communication part of this workshop is over 2 sessions because it's pretty intense. I normally try to do that over a Saturday so that each one of you have a chance to speak about your issues in one session, and the other one have their chance to speak their mind in a different session. I don't leave you alone to do this. You work with a facilitator because we want a positive outcome either way of deciding to divorce or that we can move on to the next steps. Either way, this workshop is very helpful if you continue with divorce, because with the tools that you learn here, you can then create visions for you as co-parents together and boundaries. So if you decide to stay in the marriage, the next step of the workshop would be revisioning your relationship. And then the next one is about boundaries. Many relationships is boundaryless, and because of that, it creates issues. So the next thing that we do is rebuild your life after divorce. So now what? Divorce has happened. What is the new meaning of your life? How do you live as a single person? How do you live as a single parent? What is the vision for your life going forward? Do you want to be in relationships again? Do you want to rebuild your life in a way that you don't rehearse the same behaviors that you did in your marriage? Then we do individual life coaching for those who don't like groups. Of course, it's more expensive than the group work, but it's also very effective. Then we also do ongoing divorce coaching. Now, what is divorce coaching? We're bringing some life coaching, but also for me as an attorney, I become a bounce board for you about where your process is going, especially if you are in an acrimonious divorce. I will help you through the divorce coaching to see how you can manage your attorneys differently, how you can take responsibility for the process so that it doesn't escalate too much. And then, of course, we offer mediation services. So this is the end of part 1.